The Huns sweep through the monastery, their horses trampling the incomprehensible books. They burn the library out of a primal fear that the letters conceal blasphemies against their god, an iron scimitar. In the ashes of this ancient world, a single incorrect syllable in a prayer could lead a man to the stake. Defining the nature of the universe was a blood sport, where a theological error meant a public execution. Aurelian, a brilliant theologian, fought this battle alongside his peer, John of Pannonia. They were soldiers in the same army, dedicated to preserving the absolute purity of orthodox belief. Behind their holy mission lay a bitter, invisible duel. Aurelian was consumed by a secret desire to intellectually surpass John. This ancient manuscript illustrates how identical their rigid beliefs actually were. It depicts the earth as a quadrangular box, mimicking the Hebrew tabernacle. Both men fiercely defended this literal geometry over the physical reality of a sphere. Their shared zealotry masked a toxic envy. Theology had ceased to be a search for truth. It was now a weapon sharpened for murder. The first target for that weapon emerges along the edges of the empire, in the sweeping valleys of the Danube. A new sect known as the Annulars begins spreading a doctrine that threatens the very structure of Christian time. The Annulars preach that history is a circle. In their view, time is a wheel bending into a closed loop where there is no such thing as a new event. Every action and every life that has ever happened will happen exactly again forever. Aurelian prepares to crush this idea. He locks himself away, laboriously crafting a massive, dense labyrinth of mocking syllogisms and complex logic to tear the annular doctrine apart. But before he can deliver his masterpiece, John of Pannonia strikes. John releases a brief, elegant argument. One man's soul is worth more than the entire universe, and the idea that this unique life could be lost and endlessly repeated is a pompous frivolity. He invalidates the loop in a single page. John's elegant victory leaves Aurelian humiliated. His massive treatise is exposed as a convoluted mess next to John's clarity. From this moment, Aurelian's focus shifts from defending the faith to the psychological destruction of his rival. A second opportunity arrives when a far more insidious heresy begins to infest the empire, creeping in from Egypt and Asia, the Histriones. The Histriones follow a twisted mirror logic. Every human being has a celestial double experiencing the exact opposite of their earthly life. To ensure your celestial twin remains pure and radiant in heaven, you must commit the most atrocious, sinful acts on earth. Aurelian attempts to write a definitive refutation of this doctrine. He wants to destroy their logic, but his pen halts. Standard religious dogma sounds too weak to counter such an intricate philosophy. Then a sudden breakthrough. A perfect, elegant, 20-word refutation abruptly materializes in his mind. He writes it down with joy. But the relief vanishes in an instant. The perfect orthodox argument against the Histriones is not his own. It is a direct quote from a forgotten text, written years ago by John of Pannonia. Aurelian is faced with an impossible choice. If he omits the 20 words, his argument fails. But if he uses them, he is plagiarizing the man he hates. He settles on an insidious compromise. Aurelian includes the exact quote to defeat the heresy, but he precedes it with a disclaimer. He writes that these words were spoken by a learned man with more frivolity than guilt, framing the author as one who flirted with heretical ideas. This tiny semantic trap is all it takes. The machinery of the Inquisition springs to life. John of Pannonia is dragged before Roman judges, accused of harboring heretical sympathies because of his own historical words. During the trial, John makes a fatal miscalculation. Driven by intellectual pride, he refuses to retract a single syllable. He views the accusation as beneath him, arguing with his judges using biting wit and irony. The judges are unimpressed. After 3 days of debate, the sentence is passed. Aurelian watches silently. As John of Pannonia is stripped, crowned in sulfur, and tied to a stake where bursts of fire rapidly engulf him. Aurelian has done it. He successfully weaponized the law to execute his rival, committing the perfect murder without ever lifting a sword. In the aftermath, Aurelian feels no victory. He feels only the hollow, exhausted relief of surviving a long disease that had become part of his life. History tells us that great conquerors often mourn the enemies that define them. When Pompey died, Julius Caesar wept. But Aurelian remains numb, devoid of tears for the mind he extinguished. To escape the quiet guilt of what he has done, Aurelian flees. He seeks out the solitary edges of the empire, wandering through swamps and deserts, hoping the isolation will bring him peace. Peace never comes. Years later, in a remote forest, a sudden noise wakes him in the early hours of dawn. But at midday, a blinding lightning bolt shatters the dark, instantly igniting the trees into a raging inferno. Caught in the blaze, Aurelian is burned alive. The flames consume him entirely, dictating that he dies in the exact same manner as the man he murdered. Here, the narrative perspective leaves the physical world behind. It crosses into the eternal kingdom of heaven, an unfathomable realm completely devoid of time and human dogma. In paradise, Aurelian learns that the distinction between accuser and accused never existed. To the infinite mind of God, the orthodox believer and the heretic were the same person.